Wings of the Forgotten. The year 2001, the first night. The new century began with fear. The Thorn virus struck fast and merciless, unraveling lungs, liquefying tissues, and spreading like wildfire through the arteries of cities. Morgues overflowed. Nations collapsed under the weight of corpses. Humanity searched desperately for a savior. That savior seemed to be Dr. Absalon Greaves, a scientist working beyond the reach of collapsing governments. With no resources but his own brilliance and desperation, Absalon turned to nature's survivors. Bats carried viruses without falling to them. From their genes, he crafted a vaccine, fusing bat DNA with his cure and whispering into the frozen silence of his lab. "This will save us." It seemed to work. Patients lived, fevers broke, the dead toll slowed. For a moment, hope was reborn. Then came the hunger. Those inoculated returned with red pupils glowing like embers, their canines lengthened, their nails sharpened to claws. They retained human form, height, hair, face, but beneath the skin something ancient had awakened. They smelled the iron in blood, the warmth in flesh. They drank, and with each bite they spread their curse. These were the first vampires. Contrary to myth, they were no mindless beasts. They learned fast, adapted faster. They built armies from the newly turned, forming squads and hierarchies, repurposing human weapons and strategies. They marched in order, drilled with discipline, and struck with cunning. Governments tried to contain them with bullets and fire. Cities burned, barricades fell. Within months, the world was no longer ruled by mankind. It was ruled by hunger. And so began the Vampire War. Bloodlines of Night, 2001-2050. The first vampires spread through cities, mastering tactics faster than human armies could respond. They claimed subways as barracks, stadiums as mustering grounds, hospitals as feeding halls. They turned every ruin into a fortress. Generals emerged among them, former mechanics, teachers, soldiers who now commanded battalions of red-eyed legions. To survive meant to hide. Humanity scattered into enclaves, carving lives into deserts, mountains, and bunkers. Rumors of survivors spread, but so did reports of entire towns drained dry overnight. Absalon, watching this collapse, buried himself in laboratories. He analyzed his creation, horrified at what he had unleashed. But the tide of blood drowned his work. His name passed into whispers, cursed as the man who damned the earth. Yet something even greater loomed on the horizon. Chapter 2: Birth of the Purebloods. When two non-winged vampires bred, their children were not like their parents. They grew taller, 7 feet or more, their hair cascading down their backs, ears sharpening into elongated points. From their shoulder blades erupted vast, leathery wings spanning 18 feet, their claws able to shred steel. Unlike their predecessors, these vampires were immune to sunlight, their blood untainted by science's corruption. They were the pureblood winged vampires. They emerged as aristocrats of the night, elegant and arrogant. They restored ruined palaces, dressed in velvet and silks, and crowned themselves with titles stolen from the ashes of human nobility. They despised the first vampires as flawed, called humans livestock, and saw Dhampirs as abominations yet to be purged. By mid-century, pureblood courts ruled the globe. Humanity was scattered, broken, reduced to whispers and resistance. The world was now a kingdom of wings and blood. Act 2: The Fall of Man, 2050-2100. Chapter 3: Empires of the Purebloods. In Paris, a pureblood throne rose within the gutted opera. In Cairo, copper domes turned noon into dusk. In New York, skyscrapers became citadels, where winged lords feasted in gardens suspended over ruins. Their dominions stretched across continents, marked by crimson banners and echoing screams. The first vampires, though outclassed, were not animals. They formed armies disciplined and cunning, crafting weapons and strategies of their own. They marched in ranks, executed orders with precision, and built hidden societies beneath pureblood rule. Though often treated as inferiors, their pride never fully bent. Chapter 4: Hidden Humanity. While vampires ruled above, humans endured in secret. Across centuries, they forged hidden militaries, trained soldiers in caves and ruins, and built laboratories beneath deserts and ice. Scientists worked ceaselessly to replicate lost knowledge, designing weapons to pierce vampire hide and explosives that burned with artificial sunlight. The resistance never died. It adapted. From each generation came warriors and scholars who prepared for the day they could rise again. Some first vampires turned against the purebloods, allying with these human enclaves. And in this dangerous blending of worlds, a new kind of being was born. Act 3, The Dhampir Dawn, 2100-2600. Chapter 5, The Children of Two Worlds. From forbidden unions came the Dhampirs. They looked human but bore unmistakable signs. Yellow-crimson eyes, sharpened canines on top and bottom, fingernails honed into claws. Stronger and faster than humans, they could leap into the air and fly without wings, bending the unseen currents around them. Sunlight did not burn them, it blessed them. They were hated by both sides. Humans feared them. Vampires reviled them. But when the first Dhampir slew a pureblood elder in combat, everything changed. Humanity rallied behind them, seeing in them not curses, but salvation. Chapter 6, The Turning Tide. Dhampirs became symbols of resistance. They trained in hidden schools, honing their powers. Humans armed them with weapons forged in secrecy, combining technology and biology into tools designed for vampire war. First vampires who rejected their masters stood alongside them, teaching strategy and battlecraft. Together, they struck the purebloods where it hurt most: citadels, blood farms, supply chains. Their legend spread like fire. For the first time in centuries, the balance of power shifted. Humanity had protectors again. Act 4, The Black Sun Vanguard, 2600-3001. Chapter 7, Vanguard of the Forgotten Sun. By the 27th century, the Resistance had evolved into an elite force, the Black Sun Vanguard. Composed of Dhampirs and humans, this strike force specialized in destroying pureblood elders. Their insignia, a circle half black, half gold, symbolized night conquered by sunlight. They became executioners of tyrants, assassins in the dark, and liberators of the enslaved. Every victory carved a scar into the aristocratic arrogance of the pureblood courts. Chapter 8, Marcello, Ghost of the Spire. Among the vanguard, one warrior rose as legend: Marcello. The son of a pureblood and a human resistance fighter, his bloodline gave him immense power, tempered by human resilience. He wore gloves tipped with razor-sharp talons, crafted from obsidian and alloy, capable of tearing through vampire hide. Known as the Ghost of the Spire, Marcello became a nightmare to the elders. He led raids that toppled citadels, freed blood farms, and turned pureblood courts into graves. His name spread in whispers across both camps, spoken with reverence by humans and with fear by vampires. But even as he carved hope from despair, whispers stirred of something older, darker, returning from beneath the ice. Epilogue, 3001, The Frozen Curse. Dr. Absalon Greaves had not escaped the curse he unleashed. Long after the first vampires rose, he too was bitten. Refusing to surrender, he locked himself away, working endlessly to find a cure. He injected himself with countless formulations, but none cleansed his blood. His body remained trapped between man and monster. When all hope failed, Absalon forged his own tomb. He clasped shackles around his ankles, bound to an iron weight heavy enough to drag him into the abyss. At the edge of an Antarctic river glazed in eternal ice, he cast himself in. The current pulled him down, sealing him in frozen layers of glacial stone. Centuries passed. The world above burned, rebuilt, and bled again. But beneath the river, Absalon endured, bald, frozen, his body locked in silence, his mind chained between guilt and curse. Then in the year 3001, the ice shifted. Cracks spread like veins across the glacier. Light bled through the river. And within the frozen tomb, Absalon's eyes opened. The creator of the curse had returned. Act 5, The Return of the Progenitor. Chapter 1, The Thaw. The ice split like thunder. From the frozen currents of Antarctica, Dr. Absalon Greaves emerged after a millennium of silence. His body steamed as it tore free of glacial bonds, the ancient infection in his veins rekindled. He staggered to the shore, his mind a storm of questions. What day? What month? What year? The stars overhead were unfamiliar. Cities on distant horizons burned with artificial light and structures alien to his memory. He placed trembling hands against the earth, his scientist's mind instinctively recording every detail. The world had changed. Chapter 2. Stranger in his own world. Absalon wandered among ruins and new districts alike, each step hammering home a truth. He had been gone for 1,000 years. His cure that wasn't had reshaped the earth into a dominion of predators. Humanity cowered in shadows. Dhampirs stood as guardians and pureblood aristocrats reigned as gods. He climbed a spire that pierced the skyline, gazing down at the empire his mistake had birthed. The air smelled of blood and iron, of predators ruling without fear. He whispered to himself, though none could hear, "I made this." Chapter 3. The Arrogant Challenger. A shadow descended from the sky. With wings spanning 18 feet and armor gleaming, Omni, a pureblood aristocrat, landed upon the spire. He folded his arms, chin lifted in disdain, and regarded Absalon with contempt. To Omni, this bald, half-frozen figure was a stray, a low-tier vampire unworthy of recognition. Chapter 4. The Reminder. Absalon's body blurred. One heartbeat he stood before Omni. The next he was behind him. A crimson line split the air as Omni's aristocratic body fell in halves, wings shredded, pride extinguished before his mind could register fear. Absalon looked at his hands. Once they had carried syringes. Now they dripped gore. He felt no triumph, no satisfaction. Only the weight of what he was. Not man, not vampire, but progenitor. Chapter 5. The Order of Vilgor. Word of Omni's death reached Lord Vilgor, commander of the North Platoon. His fury was swift. Believing the 9th Ward district of non-winged vampires responsible, he ordered their annihilation. His decree was absolute. Destroy the ward, slaughter its armies, and recover the fallen purebloods' remains. Vilgor dispatched not only his regular aristocratic warriors but his most brutal force, the armored wing vampires. These soldiers were clad in black steel. Their wings were plated in serrated metal, sharpened into weapons as deadly as any blade. In battle, they could fold and strike, turning their wings into cleavers that sliced through flesh, stone, and steel alike. They were predators turned into living war machines. But the first vampires did not kneel. The non-winged surged in their thousands, clawing through alleys, swarming rooftops, dragging armored aristocrats into the depths of the ward. For every armored warrior who struck down 10, 100 more pressed forward, fueled by centuries of pride and fury. The first vampires were not blind to their disadvantage. For centuries, in hidden laboratories beneath ruins, they had prepared for this day. They revealed their weapon, the super vampires. These hulking titans stood as tall as purebloods, their frames grotesquely muscular. Their strength was catastrophic. A single blow could shatter stone, a grasp could crush wings. They tore armored soldiers from the sky, ripped steel plating from bone, and hurled aristocrats into ruins. For a moment, the tide shifted. Super vampires roared through the battlefield, a living storm of muscle and fury. But the armored wing vampires were not ordinary soldiers. They were discipline sharpened into form, grace forged into brutality. Their plated wings cleaved through titanic limbs, their speed turned muscle into fodder. Elegance triumphed over brute force. Chapter 8. The Cost of Victory. When the smoke cleared, the 9th Ward was a graveyard. The streets were choked with corpses of first vampires, super vampires, and armored aristocrats alike. Blood ran in rivers between broken towers. The armored wing vampires had won, but their victory was soaked in ruin. Of the entire armored host, only one survived. He stood alone amidst corpses, his plated wings dripping crimson, the last echo of a legion that had triumphed, yet perished. The first vampires had been broken, their contingency crushed. But their pride endured, and whispers spread that the war was not over. Chapter 9. The Progenitor Watches. From a distant spire, Absalon watched. He had not raised a hand in the battle, yet it was fought in the shadow of his existence. He saw echoes of his own work in the super vampires, crude reflections of the science he had abandoned 1,000 years ago. He saw aristocrats wrapped in armor, wings sharpened into weapons, an empire built upon his curse. The world had grown without him. It had adapted his plague into societies, militaries, and wars of its own. And now he stood above it all, no longer frozen, no longer forgotten. The father of vampires had returned.